We're back with more things from a dad perspective here with my husband, Gabe.
Hi.
And we wanted to talk about this philosophy that Gabe actually coined called suffer
With a purpose.
And when he first said it, I was like, oh my God, that's like kind of painful and brutal, but so true. So what is the concept?
The concept is something you're doing with your child is not working. They're not doing something, and you're annoyed about it all the time. I call it suffering in circles. Like you're just doing the same thing. You're yelling at them. They're getting frustrated with you, and you just then repeat the cycle over and over without any real resolution to it.
Or you're not setting a consequence.
Yeah, so they're just not listening.
And they don't learn anything. You're just like, okay, fine, yes, here's the such and such.
Yeah, but it brings you frustration while you're doing this. So you're suffering. So my idea was suffer with a purpose.
When we started being more firm, listen, when you do this, this is going to be the outcome, and set lines in the sand and followed through, even though, of course, every time we did that, it led to tantrums. Like, kids don't at first like the boundary. It's like the push the vending machine. Like, wait a minute, I can't just get a candy bar by pushing this button.
Right.
It's like it gets worse, but then for us, then it got better.
Yeah.
And friends of ours who didn't do that pain of like, okay, I know it's gonna get worse, but I'm setting a boundary. It just stays at this like level 7 annoyance, and that's suffering in circles instead of suffering with a purpose, where it's gonna bump up but then come down. Right?
Well, so the hard part, I think, is choosing something that you know is going to cause a problem in the moment.
Discomfort.
Yes.
Yeah.
And instead of the thing you were doing is you're like giving in or whatever to make that moment pass easier. And, we were guilty of this. I think everybody does this. But all that does is like set you up for the same thing to happen again. And so what we're doing is seeing people that were just like having that moment over and over and over again, and just and I started saying these terms like they're just like suffering in circles. Like that moment was driving them insane, and they were unhappy it was happening, the parents, but they were not doing anything to make it go away.
Right. So, like bedtime actually is a key one we see with so many friends that were like, bedtime
is miserable.
And bedtime's just miserable. They don't listen, and they come in our room X number of times a night.
Yeah.
They don't go to bed till 10, but they would
say, all right, get in our bed, do whatever.
So that they'll just go to sleep.
Because it would shorten that suffering moment, but it wouldn't do anything to end it.
Right, so then they're still getting woken up multiple nights.
So the thing I came up with was suffer with a purpose. Like, that moment already sucks, but do something to make it stop. So like suffer with a purpose. Make a choice that's gonna make that moment maybe not be great, but is gonna stop that cycle of it happening.
Like bedtime's a perfect one. We used to talk about this. Like, we set some rules when we finally, with the suffering with the purpose on bedtime, was like, we if you come in our bedroom at night, you are losing your morning cartoon.
Yeah.
And that was so painful because he woke up still really early at that point. He was like a 2-year-old or 3-year-old. And it would be like, I want to just sit there and drink my coffee and let him watch his cartoon.
Right.
I don't want to have the outcome that has on me.
Right.
But yet, if I were to just not have any consequence, then it's never going to change. And he's waking me up every night, and the lack of sleep makes us all crazy.
You're in a horrible circle of it happening. So you choose the thing that is maybe more uncomfortable in the moment, maybe makes like a freak out that lasts much longer than it would have had you appeased them, but it has an end. You're now trying to stop this. Now we don't have someone waking us up every single night.
Right. Because
which is worse than not letting them watch cartoon in the morning and having to listen to one freak out or 2 freak outs about it.
And this really piggybacks on top of what we just did in the last video of the dad chat agreement, because kids don't just randomly, they don't learn if you're just throwing out a consequence.
No.
If like we wake up in the morning and I had just said to Caleb, you didn't stay in bed last night, so you lost your cartoon.
It's like,
I'd be the bad guy.
Absolutely.
But we agreed in advance.
Have this agreement in advance, like in a calm moment, prior to bedtime, some other time, or whatever the situation is, having a chat and saying, hey, look, if this happens, this is going to be the consequence. and they can go, okay, and they'll agree with you. And then you have to follow through.
And then the morning when I'm like, hey, buddy, and he's ready to push the thing, and I'm like, you came in our bedroom last
You
night.
can't do it.
He was very upset, but I tell you, the next night, didn't come
No
in our
kid.
room. And we've used this same philosophy
so many
for our
successes
dinners to
from
go
this.
well,
Yeah.
for our car rides to go well, for our
putting bikes away.
putting bikes away, and
Yeah.
we're going to tell that story.
Yeah.
So it just, suffer with a purpose.
Yeah. There you go. Enjoy.
And actually, I want to tell that story. So as we're talking about bedtime, that's typically younger kids. So let's share a story of older kids.
Yeah.
So like when our son that was first grade. So he was 6.5 or so. He was really excited about starting to bike around with new neighbors in our neighborhood. And Buddy would get excited, they would play, they'd leave the bike kind of in the driveway and then go around other things. And then nighttime, we're like, your bike's still out and we have to put it away.
Not our favorite.
We'd be so frustrated, and we'd try reminding him, like, hey, dude, like,
Put your bike away.
it's out again. And you just say, I forgot. And it was this cycle of like
Turned into a
reminding,
cycle,
nagging,
and it
I
was starting
forgot.
to really frustrate us.
And so we said, dad chat style,
Hey, look, if you don't put your bike away, and we have to remind you, you're not going to be able to use your bike the next day.
and then he did great for a while,
Yeah.
and he was putting away. And this is also what happens is sometimes that alone will make it be good, and then
Yeah.
you'll have a day where they don't, and ooh, that's a key moment where you tempted to be like, okay, just this once, you know, I'll
Yeah.
help you. But no, we stuck to it and suffered with a purpose and said, oh man, buddy, you left it out.
Yep.
And so you lose a day of having your bike available.
Yep.
And he was so bummed. We were
Yep.
going on a long drive somewhere for dinner that night, I remember. And he just kind of moped in the back seat.
Yep.
And I know there was like so many moments I almost wanted to save him from it.
Right,
you
you
know?
just
We're
want
like,
to give in, especially sometimes things are smaller, or if they have improved and they get better. But it's better for everybody if you don't, and that's actually one of the hardest things. Is then just saying like, look, we set this consequence, stick to it. This is it. This is what happens, and it's the way to help them learn things and get better. And the bike was put away all the time from then on.
And the big thing I try to think of is like, okay, I think in this moment it could be easy to rescue him, but in the future, the consequences are going to be really harmful in his life. It's going to mean he lost a job because he didn't show up on time,
Yeah.
or he didn't put something away correctly at the workplace or
Yeah.
something, you know? So
Yeah.
that's why it's important too.
Yeah.